Playing to Win is brought to you by Toyota Tundra. We look at Doug Fister and what he's done the last 11 games, 10 quality starts, and the Astros just have reeled off those wins. They have won his last 9 starts in a row, Ash.
Pretty phenomenal stuff put up by Doug Fister, a guy who doesn't throw overly hard. He's got a real good sinker, over-the-top curveball, uses a changeup sparingly, but he has spotted that two-seam fastball sinker to his glove side extremely well over the course of the season. Mixes other pitches, follows a game plan very well according to the coaching staff, and a guy who, when the scouting report says here's what is needed against a particular hitter, will go out and execute extremely well.
Fister gets his ground ball outs, and he has been very effective and just stringing together those solid, dependable trips to the mound. Here at home, he's 2-1 with a 3.82 ERA. And I think he has been the most consistent guy in that rotation.
You talk about the 10 of 11 starts now with a 2.60 ERA, quality starts in 10 of those 11 starts. And over the last 9 games, it's been talked about already, but worth mentioning again, a 2.35 ERA in those last 9 starts. 6-0 for Fister personally, 9-0 for the Astros. So he's the guy that goes out and brings the W's home.
See the breakdown, and right-handed hitters have had no day at the beach, hitting 180 against Fister. Left-handed hitters 287.
And he's not one of those guys who you would watch with his stuff and you'd say immediately, well, right-hand hitters are going to have a really tough time against this guy. But he is tall, 6'8", creates a little bit of that tilt that other guys cannot bring to the plate. And when he's got that good sinker working, spotting it well, just is overwhelming on the righties to this point.
Here's the starting lineup now for Mike Scioscia's Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim. They are 31-38. They've won their last 2 series. They go with Yunel Escobar at third base, Cole Calhoun in right field, Mike Trout at center field, Albert Pujols the DH, C.J. Cron at first base, Daniel Nava the left fielder, Andrelton Simmons at shortstop. The catcher is Carlos Perez, the second baseman Gregorio Petit. Their pitcher will be Jhoulys Chacín. And the Angels coming in with a 14-11 record within the American League West. Will be hosting the Astros in Anaheim next weekend. The Astros will be, or rather next week, after the Astros are spending this weekend in Kansas City. So we get it started with Escobar. He's filled in very nicely as their third baseman since they picked him up in a deal from Washington. A .313 hitter. That's 8th best in the American League with 3 homers, 19 runs batted in. Escobar, 33 years old. 8 takes strike 1.
There's that two-seam sinker down and away to the right-hand hitter. He'll throw to that same part of the plate against the left-hand hitters. And again, a pitch that has really made the season to this point for Doug.
Just misses.
Yeah.
We've got a new home plate umpire. We haven't heard of Ramon de Jesus, have we?
Ramon de Jesus hasn't heard of this pitch right here. Let's see. Yeah, that should be rung up as another strike, and Castro thought so.
Now 2-1 to Escobar. He doesn't walk much. He has 20 of those this year, but he does swing the bat. He has 80 hits. First Angel third baseman with that many hits before the All-Star break since Sean Figgins in -- He bunts this one foul.
That got Sean Figgins a big deal with Seattle. It didn't turn out so well from that point on.
The last 42 games, Escobar's been a .335 hitter. So he's filled in quite capably at that position. He's a former shortstop. He's 3 for 11 lifetime against Fister. Slaps this one back to the pitcher. He takes care of it for the first out.
Give yourself a 5th infielder and it'll work out nicely for you.
Fister was very good in St. Louis last time out Tuesday, winning it 5-2, giving up 2 runs on 5 hits in 7 1/3 innings to the hard-hitting Cardinals. He survived a couple of solo homers by 2 left-handed hitters. Here's left-handed hitting Cole Calhoun, 288, 9 homers, 38 runs batted in. He's had a nice year. That one's in for strike 1 on Calhoun.
There you go, that same side of the plate. By the way, the Cardinals had come in red hot with the bats before that outing against Fister. 56 runs in their previous 8 games, and he simply shut them down.
Calhoun fouls. No balls, 2 strikes to Cole. He hit his 9th homer on Friday. He's hit 5 long balls in his last 15 games. He's driven in 13 in his last 16 games, but he's facing a man with a 1.40 ERA for the month of June. This is his 4th start this month. He has won the first 3. And the curveball works for a strikeout.
Right over the top with that yacker. Now that's a dangerous man, Cole Calhoun, with the bat.
He really is.
Taking a look now at our MD Anderson strike zone. And you can see that curveball well out of the strike zone, but very effective for the punch out. Right over the top.
Now hard hitting Mike Trout, one of the best players in the game, always presents a threat. That's strike 1.
Pfister is just painting that down and away edge on the right hand hitters, down and in on the lefties.
Trout hits one in the hole. Correa bobbles, will not be able to make the play on him. He's trying to make the one-handed pickup and then get off a quick throw to get Trout, but Trout reaches.
Taking a look now at the Supermo presented by Mattress Firm. This is a speed error right here. The speed of Mike Trout forces Carlos Correa to make the quick play, and he simply can't come up with it. And you're always aware of that speedster going down the line.
That breaks his string of 36 consecutive errorless games. Second longest in the majors by a shortstop. Albert Pujols at 233 has 12 homers, 44 runs batted in. Always an Astros nemesis. There's ball 1 to Pujols.
To your point, Brownie, Carlos Correa has played exceptionally, in my view, at shortstop in that period of time. Not only making the exceptional plays, but that routine play time and time again.
That's his 6th error of the year. Pujols swings at it. It's 1-1. Pujols is 1 for 11 in his career against Pfister. Albert broke out against the Astros in late May in Anaheim with a couple of homers in that series. And he had a 3-hit game in the finale, so a total of 5 hits in the 3 games against the Astros for Albert this year. Bangs that one off his leg. 1-2. Albert has more homers against the Astros than anybody's ever hit. Only Tony Perez has driven in more runs against Houston than Albert. And only Pete Rose has scored more runs against Houston than Albert. 292, 52 homers, 138 runs batted in. 2-2.
The word on Albert Pujols is that he's been struggling on the pitch away here recently, but Doug Fister's worked a couple of pitches already in on Albert.
Sure has. And the infield is shifted around, playing him to pull. In the dirt. Full count.
Very nice job by Castro.
That keeps Trout at first base, but he will be setting sail on this 3-2 with 2 outs. Pujols had surgery to repair that plantar plate in his right foot after the plantar fasciitis had bothered him the last couple of years.
Love to know what Mike Trout was looking at. They're pointing at.
Draws a throw. Trout is 9 for 10 in steals. He doesn't run as much as he used to.
I think Mike Scioscia will take that rate of success, though.
Yeah, he'll take that rate. The Angels are next to last in steals. Trout's going, and it's ball 4. Now 2 men on for C.J. Cron.
Funny thing about errors, the way it tends to lead to a lot more work for a pitcher.
Cron has 5 homers, 29 runs batted in. With that .265 average and a .318 on base average for C.J. Cron. Yeah, it could certainly cause a lot of extra pitches to be thrown in an inning. Strike to Cron.
I'm going to guess C.J. Cron is thinking right now, maybe I should have offered on that pitch.
Cron has 6 hits in his last 11 at bats. Ground ball here to Valbuena. On to Altuve. No runs, no hits, 1 error, 2 left, no score. Southwest Airlines. A.J. Hinch has George Springer leading off and playing right field with Marwin Gonzalez at first base. Jose Altuve at second. Carlos Correa at shortstop. Colby Rasmus in left field. Carlos Gomez in center. Luis Valbuena at third. Evan Gattis the DH and Jason Castro the catcher.
28-year-old right-hander Jhoulys Chacín now in his 8th start with the Angels since being acquired from the Atlanta Braves. 1 complete game over his 12 recent starts, 3 and 4 on the season. That ERA, nothing to write home about at 5. And he'll issue a few walks if you give him a chance.
George Springer might give him a shot. He's drawn 34 walks. He begins at 264 tonight with 15 homers, 41 runs batted in. He gave him a shot at ball 1 and got it. George has a .350 on base average. Chacín is from Venezuela. And George works the count to 2-0. You mentioned he came from Atlanta. The Angels have gone to about DEFCON 8 for starting pitchers this year with all the injuries they've had. So they picked him up. And now 3-0 as he starts this game. Chacín in his career, and he began his career with the Rockies, is 1-1 against the Astros with a 3.15 ERA. Springer takes all the way. It's a strike.
Good to know that George was listening to us. A little synopsis of Chacín.
He doesn't need to listen to anybody the way he's playing.
No.
And it's a leadoff walk. But this is what he's done so well out of this #1 spot in the lineup, Ash.
Yeah, it's intriguing, and you wonder, is there anything to the #1 spot, or is it George just realizing as the leadoff man, maybe I do need to bump up the on-base percentage, so I'll take a few more pitches. But he's also come through with a game-winning knock, so it's working.
Both these clubs are front-loaded as far as their 1, 2, 3 hitters being very productive at reaching base. 373 on base for the Astros, top 3, 363 for the Angels. So they're 1st and 4th in the majors in that department. Now Marwin Gonzalez, he has been ripping the ball. Bunting in the air, and that is strike 1.
Yeah, what you'd love with the Astros offensively to be able to do, though, is take advantage of those on-base percentage numbers. They haven't been able to do so, averaging just 4.2 runs a game.
They are leading the league in drawing walks, but their .238 batting average pulls them down to a ranking of 10th overall in the American League in on-base average. Marwin with 5 homers has 16 runs batted in, a .255 average, which has been on the rise. This is his 13th straight game played. It's a pretty long stretch for him. And he's now become a fixture at first base. After the demotion of Tyler White, he's picked up a lot more playing time. He hit a home run on Saturday in the Cincinnati series and tied his season high in hits with 3. He looks at it, and Marwin in his last 17 games has been a .333 hitter. There's not a big split between what left-handed hitters and right-handed hitters do against Chacín. Lefty hitters 16 points higher on the batting average. Fouled away. 1-2. The Angels have had solid starting pitching here in June. Their starters have gone 4-1 with a 1.81 ERA for the entire staff since June 1st. Starters 1.97. And they got a shutout yesterday from Jared Weaver, a complete game shutout. Carlos Perez formerly was Astros property, and he's doing the catching tonight. Chacín won 11 for the Rockies back in 2011, and he had a 3.62 ERA that year, worked 194 innings. He was with Arizona last year. That one hit him. Marwin really in some pain. He's going to take a moment here. Hit by the 1-2 pitch.
You know, they say in the dugout, any way to get on base. Sometimes carry that a little too far.
That's not a fun way to get on.
That's a tough spot. And the thing about getting hit like this, you're hoping it's nothing serious long term, but you know it's going to hurt you for a while.
Right on the inside of the left knee area.
Yeah, that's highly recommended move zone right there.
Oh boy. Yeah, now when he puts weight on that, he's going to feel it. Maybe even when he doesn't.
And again, that's not just for tonight. That's going to hurt for a while.
Yeah.
As they say, that's going to leave a mark.
Jeremiah Randall out to talk with him, and now he'll take his place at first. Oh, a walk and a hit batsman begin the night for Chacín, and that gets Jose Altuve to the plate. Altuve continues to be something else and lead the league in on-base average at .423, .342 average, 10 homers, 39 runs batted in. He's tied for second in batting average in the American League. He's second in hits with 93. In the dirt, and it gets away, and both runners advance on the wild pitch by Chacín.
You know, Brownie, as you talk about Altuve, we all know he can hit. He can do just about everything in this game. Question mark now, as he's been moved to that 3 spot in the batting order, is can he take to being a guy who is counted on to drive in a lot of runs? I see no reason to say that it's not likely.
Right. Well, he has the batting average with men in scoring position. .333. 2 men in scoring position. And he taps it foul. 1-1 to Jose. The Astros have won 17 of their last 25 games. That's the 4th best winning percentage in the majors over that period of time. One hopper, Andrelton Simmons, who is a wizard, takes that easily. He has some of the softest hands around. That's out number 1.
Well, as we talk about Altuve potentially being the big run producing guy in the 3 spot, all you can do as a hitter is go up there and hit the ball sharply, and that's what Jose did.
They hit it right at the shortstop. 1 down. That helps Chacín. Now he faces Carlos Correa. Correa with 9 homers, 33 runs batted in, has a .254 batting average. Carlos 2 for 11 with a homer against the Reds over the weekend. He walked twice yesterday, and he's now drawn 36 walks. That's in the top 7. Goes for the first pitch and fouls it. Strike one to Correa. He hit the big 3-run homer in the 13th to beat the Angels in Anaheim as a pinch hitter.
Sat all day long, and at the time kind of left you wondering, is that a little bit of an angry swing? And whatever it was, it sure worked out well.
Colby Rasmus is on deck. Pitch is down for a ball.
I, for one, am really glad to see Correa go up there and attack that first pitch with men in scoring position.
We had been talking about that, and then lately he's been swinging at more first pitches.
Now, if he's leading off an inning, maybe trying to become a base runner, maybe a different scenario. But right here, it's about the runs.
Simmons, with a runner coming home, will throw to first, and that was a good time to put on a contact play and score George Springer to make it 1-0. Correa getting his 34th run batted in.
And sometimes it's simply about making contact, put the ball in play, and pick up those well-earned ribbies. Saw George Springer glancing back, making sure there was no throw coming toward the plate.
Is that pretty much form chart that it would be a contact play with the runner at third and 1 out?
You got it. You got it. And that third base coach is always notifying the runner.
Colby Rasmus bats. There's a shot into right field. And Marwin Gonzalez is going to test that knee. Cole Calhoun with a throw. He is going to get in there. He missed the plate the first time. It's 2-0. Rasmus into second base.
You know, if there's one arm with the Angels in the outfield that you really don't want to test, it's Cole Calhoun. But with 2 outs, you have to test it, and it pays off right here. But Calhoun can flat bring it.
Rasmus picks up his 37th run batted in.
A risk that pays off for Houston.
He was running pretty well, Ash.
Yeah, he did. And sometimes you can immediately after being drilled like that. You wonder how much ice is going to be needed throughout the game for Marwin.
It's ruled a single and an error now. Gomez with the ball. That is an RBI for Rasmus, but he advanced to second on the error. We're assuming it's on Calhoun's throw, although the catcher didn't help him any there. It was a bit of a difficult pick, but he was trying to make that tag and didn't have his body positioned so as to block it, but rather so as to tag the runner. Gomez swings.
Yeah, watch this throw coming from right field. Some guys just can put so much on it, it's really tough on the catcher. That a second hop at the plate, that surprises me a bit with Calhoun.
Gomez has put together a 5-game hitting streak. Valbuena's on deck. That is in for a strike, making it 1-2. Chacin has been better the first time through the order, limiting his opponents to a .221 average. After that, it goes up to .279 second pass through the order and .290 the third pass through. Off the plate, and it's 2-2. Gomez has gotten some things going. 9 for 21 during that 5-game hitting streak. And an RBI double in the 8th to right field yesterday. A good sign. Started to swing at that pitch, and they appeal at first base. He checked the swing on Gary Cederstrom's call.
I think the Astros might have gotten a break right there. Cotton?
Well,
let's throw out the cotton and just say they caught a break.
You caught in a cold, didn't you?
Yeah, I did. I did that. No, you know what?
Yeah, he checked it.
They were dead on the money.
You caught a couple of colds, didn't you?
I caught in a whole bunch.
That was, I think, Orbit's alien friends attacked your body for a couple of weeks.
They haven't completely let go yet.
Hate to laugh, but you know, a lot of people were concerned about you. We heard from so many people, and it's good to have you back.
Well, it's Nice to hear. Thank you, Brownie, and to the fans. And yeah, I'm really glad to be back. I want to see some Astros baseball. I want to see the winning ways come in a big way right now.
Now, you don't watch games when you're sick, correct?
Oh, you got to find bits and pieces, if not all. And
okay.
I had a chance to listen to Bill Brown. Are you kidding me?
Oh, my goodness. No wonder you were sick. Ground ball home through to left field. Here's Rasmus coming to the plate. And the throw from Nava is cut off. It's 3-0 on the RBI single by Gomez. And he continues his surge. 14th run batted in and a 6-game hitting streak for Gomez.
Ooh, this is one of those innings you just love to be on this side of. You hate it when it happens against you, but a hit batter and a walk up at the top of the order. You get a ground out that produces a run, and then a couple of balls find holes. And before you know it, you're on top, putting a crooked number on the board in the first inning. And you see Colby stretching it out.
He really did.
Yep.
He caught that bag in perfect stride, Ash.
You know, he's a very good base runner. We know he runs well. He's not what you'd call the extreme burner, but he goes and gets it in the outfield and on the bases. Just exceptional. Our Lexus defensive ratings as we look at that outfield for the Angels. Again, Cole Calhoun, he can really run. You do want to run on Daniel Nava, and you saw that throw come in just kind of bouncing into the third baseman. Mike Trout also throws well. He charges the ball extremely well in center.
Luis Valbuena bats. Astros getting their 7-hitter to the plate here in the first inning. He's on a 3-game hitting streak. That's generally a good sign if you're trying to win a baseball game. Gomez draws the throw. He is 8 for 10 in steals. The Astros lead the league with 58 stolen bases. They've been caught 20 times. Fouled away, strike one. Valbuena was 3 for 8 over the weekend with a homer. And in fact, when he connected against Brandon Finnegan yesterday, it was his second home run off a left-handed pitcher in the last 10 days. He didn't hit any homers in April. He's hit all 8 since May 7th. Gomez drawing some attention. Now, we mentioned the Astros had gone with 17 wins in 25 games, but during that point, Texas is 20-5. Ball one makes it 1-1. Rangers have the best starting pitching in the league right now too, Ash.
Brownie, may I just take the moment to quickly say one more time thanks to all the Astros fans.
Sure.
Astros fans are fantastic, and really great to be back, and we just love getting the team together.
Away for ball 2, 2-1. They're so patient with all of us.
In some cases they really need to be, don't they?
You know who did a great job tonight? Julia on the pregame
Yeah, she
show.
did. Way to go, Julia.
Mike Stanton is always solid. Julia will be anchoring the postgame show after the game. Brett Dolan's doing our reports from the field. So we have a little different configuration to the team tonight.
No high heels for Brett, though.
No. Actually, I'm wearing those tonight.
Nice. I see that. I don't know how you chose those socks to go with those heels.
Well, we got the socks yesterday. You missed out on that giveaway.
Oh, really?
Father's Day socks with the orange and blue. That works very well with high heels.
Glad you guys held something back for me.
3 balls and a strike. Poor Blummer had to pack a pair in his suitcase and take them home after about 2 weeks on the road. He's probably wearing them right now on the beach.
You just made me think of how bad it was in his suitcase going home.
Valbuena takes a strike, and it's 3-2.
Borderline, maybe at best. Yep.
Maybe a stitch caught a little bit in that white area called home plate. The black border around it is not part of the strike zone.
Was for Lee Wire.
That's ball 4. Yeah, that's true. And runners are at first and second on the second walk of the inning by Chacin.
Lee Wire, a great umpire of yesteryear that would go out and with the back end of the brush to brush off home plate, he would dig out those edges around the plate. And boy, when you walk up to home plate and you were scared to death because it looked like it was about 3 feet wide.
He dug a trench around it.
It was a beautiful thing. As far as being a catcher and working with your pitcher, let's go. Good day to be on the hill.
It looked like the plate was about 3 inches above the rest of the ground around it.
Yeah, it did.
Like a big moat or something.
Pitches in the dirt were dangerous.
213 for Evan Gattis, 11 homers, 28 runs batted in. He's hit homers in each of his last 2 games. Pick off at second, and Gomez is back in head first. On the throw to Petit. Gattis did his normal thing when he was a catcher in yesterday's game, and that's hit like crazy. He had an RBI double and a homer, going 2 for 4.
Threw out another would-be base stealer too.
That's another point. That's what he did.
No, he had quite a cool spell there with the bat, but when he gets it going, you see the value instantly with the extra bases, the home runs. He's a big part of what the Astros did with the long ball last year.
One and one. Gattis homered in 3 straight games from June 3rd through the 5th. He has a chance to do that again. Since he came back from Double-A May 17th, he's had an .811 OPS. Fouls it back with a good cut, 1-2. Since his return, he's tied for second in the American League in homers with 10.
You know, the long balls off the bat of Evan Gattis don't surprise me. I think maybe many of us are a bit surprised at how well he's done behind the plate in that running game. He's thrown exceptionally well.
He's now thrown out 6 of 12. Ground ball, foul. Very close to going over that third base bag. Adrian Johnson calls it foul. He lives here in Houston.
Not anymore. Let's take our peek at this call over the bag. And just can't quite. Well, I guess you can tell.
Yeah, it's foul.
Nice call, homie.
Umpires are never at home, though, are they?
No, I guess not.
You know, one of our cameramen, Mark Reed, said his son umpired 6 games in one day a couple days ago.
At $25 a game, you can't blame the man.
In this heat. Gattis whacks one, and that will be something to watch. It's well foul, but the sound was loud.
You know, it's hard to keep that hanger that's left in fair territory. You get the barrel out, and it's just going to yank it foul. Evan doesn't show a lot on the emotion side, but you could almost read the mind there. Man, just keep that thing fair, will you?
Yep. That's hard to do, as you said, with that location. And Chacin gets a strikeout, but he really has to work. 34 pitches in the first inning. Colby scores the 3rd run to make it 3-0 Houston. By Lexus, the new 2016 Lexus ES and ES Hybrid. It's next level luxury. By Academy Sports and Outdoors, donating $100 for each Astros home run and $200 for each Correa home run to Houston Children's Charity. And by Southwest Airlines, transparency, low fares, nothing to hide. 3-0 Astros. Doug Fister throws ball 1. Daniel Nava, the batter, inning number 2 underway with Nava hitting .224. 1 homer, 6 runs batted in. He's back from an injury. That evens the count at 1-1. Fister pitched around the 2-out error by Correa in the first inning. He walked Pujols, but then got Crone. It is a team. We talk about it often in baseball, but when a pitcher has a misplay behind him, it really is so helpful for the team if he's able to make those pitches and get that 3rd out without it mushrooming into a big inning.
It really changes everything. If you're Carlos Correa and you commit an error and it turns into a big inning, it's devastating on you personally. It hurts the team, obviously. So yeah, you want that guy on the hill that can just suck it up and get it done.
Struck him out. Number 2.
And so talk about Fister elevating with that 2-seamer at times. Last game out against the Cardinals, and he does it right here to get the strikeout. Most people will say you never want to be up with the sinking fastball, but Fister has found a way to succeed with it.
Andrelton Simmons, one of the top defensive shortstops in baseball, is hitting .220. That's ball 1 to him. Simmons has 1 homer, 10 runs batted in. He was activated from the disabled list prior to Wednesday's games. He missed 33 games with a left thumb UCL tear. 1 ball, 1 strike. Last year he led all National League players in defensive runs saved for the 3rd consecutive year when he played for Atlanta. Just a terrific glove man. 1-2 to Simmons.
Yeah, he looked like he was maybe much more than that when he first came up with Atlanta. Looked like a guy that was really going to drive the baseball.
Broken bat. Fister. Good glove to the backhand side. 2 outs.
Ball generally doesn't carry real well when it comes off this part of the bat.
Yeah, it sounded like it was hit with balsa wood.
Everybody's got a kitchen somewhere, and that was deep in it.
Carlos Perez is next. Perez takes their strike 1. Perez has had some good games against the Astros. They traded for him. He was with Toronto in that Big Ten player deal. The J. Happ trade. Bounces that one foul. And then Perez and Nick Tropiano were traded for Hank Conger before the 2015 season. And last year he had 260 at bats with the Angels, hitting .250 with 4 homers, 21 runs batted in. Tropiano's had some good games too. He's been hurt though lately. Off the plate. 1-2.
Trying to find out on that outside edge how much is available.
Good location there for a strikeout. That's number 3 for Fister. He leads it 3-0.
cover the Angels, and it's time to take a look at our Chevy Stroh poll. And here tonight, here's your clues. Which recent move has helped the Astros the most? But Springer's moved to that leadoff position. Marwin batting second in the lineup, or shifting the bullpen roles around. You can head over to Root Sports Southwest Twitter page to vote in the poll. Now, guys, back up to you.
Thank you, Brett. We'll have results on that for you later on. 3-0 Astros. Jason Castro will step up, and the number 9 hitter gets it started with ball 1. Steven Strasburg has been scratched from his start at Los Angeles with an upper back strain. That messes up what could have been a great pitching matchup with Clayton Kershaw later tonight, with a couple of 10-game winners.
I've heard that Kershaw-itis has been going around.
Castro takes one, and he is ahead 3-0 in the count. He's walked 31 times this year.
How about Brett Dolan bringing some fodder for a pretty good argument right there with those different options.
Always good to find out what the fans are thinking on those. Castro has the 3rd highest walk percentage in the majors, behind Bryce Harper and Paul Goldschmidt. Second baseman Petit over to first, 1 out.
It's an interesting pair of players to find yourself kind of mixed in with in terms of the stats.
Yeah. Jason has been walking 17% of the time. So nice to have that 343 on base average at the bottom of the lineup, Ash.
Yeah, that works out well, and you hope that George Springer and company can take advantage.
George scored the first run after walking. He taps this one foul. There's strike 1. The Astros just 2 games below 500 now, 34 and 36. It's 1-1. They have been this close to 500 recently, but it's been a while since they got closer than 2 games under 500 early in the season. 2 balls and a strike.
This team's been resilient. That 2 games under is where they were heading into Arlington.
Yep.
Of course, that didn't work out well. On to Tampa Bay, and then the club, after taking a rough time there, just turns it right back around.
3-1 now. Yeah, they were 28 and 30 when they left for Arlington after the June 5th game, and they have not been closer to 500 since they were 3-4. Springer takes another walk.
Now 7-17 to start a season is going to make life rough for some period of time.
Yeah.
Houston Methodist brings us our league leaders. Best record since May 24th around the major leagues. Texas Rangers, they've been playing great baseball, no question. Cubs, everybody's talking about them. The Giants have really come on. But there are the Houston Astros along with the Toronto Blue Jays. So it's maybe been quiet for some folks, but it's happening.
Marwin Gonzalez was hit by a pitch and came around to score in the first inning. That one's out of play, strike 1. Well, the Astros won 6-0 yesterday over Cincinnati. They got the shutout from Mike Fiers and Chris Davinsky, giving the other relievers a day off.
You know, that's the kind of game that I think you need more of in a successful season. You don't have to score 13 runs to have a laugher. You can have that quiet chuckle game where you win it 6-0. You get the great pitching.
Round to bunt, and there, now the throw to first. He dives back in, but Marwin took the pitch for a ball. That puts the runner in a tough spot, doesn't it?
It really does. You see a guy square to bunt. especially when a sacrifice is on. You start to extend that lead, and when a guy bunts through it, man, it's tough to get back.
He just did. Yeah, because George has got to be ready to dash to second if the ball gets down on the ground, and instead he's almost picked off. Perez throws pretty well.
He's aggressive, there's no question. Back in the days when you had the pitcher hitting all the time, of course they still do in the National League, but that pitcher turns to bunt and he bunts through it, and you're not all that fleet of foot on the bases. You need to get the 90 feet, and so you have to do everything you can.
1-2. Astros will be facing mostly right-handed pitching in the next 7 days. They will face the lone left-hander Hector Santiago tomorrow night when Colin McHugh takes the mound, and then we'll face Matt Shoemaker Wednesday. That's a day game, by the way, and then 3 right-handers in Kansas City. 2 balls, 2 strikes. So Ash, when you and Blummer and Julia get together, the Kansas City Royals at home are 25-8 this year.
It's pretty impressive. They are a club that is up there among the leaders in terms of team batting average. They don't hit for a lot of power. That's probably in good part due to the ballpark they play in. Got the terrific arms in the bullpen.
They've really filled in for those 2 injuries they have had. Moustakas, the third baseman's out for the year after knee surgery, and their left fielder Alex Gordon has been out.
I thought those 2 injuries were going to do them in.
Yeah, I did too. This is the 6th 3-ball count for Chacin, running up his count to 50 pitches already. Chacin last time out went 5 against Minnesota. He got the win and gave up 7 hits and 4 runs. Average fastball for him is around 90. Runner going in. It's a ball. Gonzalez draws walk number 4 for Chacin.
Well, as we said up top, if you give Chacin a chance, he'll issue a few walks, and the Astros are finding it to pay off here early in the ball game. Big hit batter. That was Gonzalez in the 1st inning.
Jose Altuve had a 1-hopper to shortstop in the 1st inning. He's now 6 for 12 against Angel pitching this year, and he's a career .351 hitter against the Halos. A.J. Hinch is hoping to have at least a couple of Astros on the All-Star team. Altuve's leading in the balloting. Will Harris is a strong choice. And George Springer, of course, is deserving, but it's very difficult to make the All-Star team as an outfielder. Well, there are just so many top-notch candidates around, even though he's right there with strong credentials.
Back to your points on Jose Altuve. You realize he is now a career .308 hitter?
No, I didn't know he was up to .308.
He has pushed those numbers.
Simmons gets it to second, and there's the relay by Petit to Cron. 6-4-3 double play. No runs, no hits, and a man left after 2. 3-0 Houston.
2016 Esurance MLB All-Star Game ballot is here. Head to Astros.com/vote to choose your All-Stars and send them to the Midsummer Classic on July 12th in San Diego. Vote early and often at Astros.com/vote. And guys, as Doug Fister gets ready to start this inning, earlier today, AJ Hinch said it's not just quality, it's quantity. This guy's been our most reliable pitcher. When he wins and he pitches, we win. And I thought the most interesting part of that was he said he can pitch to any game plan. And I got a feeling when you have a pitching coach like Brent Strom and you can execute any plan he runs out there, it's a pretty good recipe for success.
You know it, Brett. That's a strike for Fister. That evens the count on Gregorio Petit, a former Astro, at 1-1. He's at 289, 1 homer, 10 runs batted in. Well, we just got a tweet from Go Astros saying, what about Fister as an all-star? Good suggestion.
Yeah, I saw that same tweet, and that's pretty valid, the way he has pitched on this club.
That's a strong point. He's already won 7 games. Usually 8 wins puts a pitcher in the mix for all-star consideration. And the issue is, AJ Hinch was telling us today, he's talked with Dad Yost, and of course AJ's lobbying for Will Harris to be on that club as well as some other players, but it seems that the pitching staff is going to be primarily composed of relief pitchers for the American League this year.
That's a bit unusual.
Up the middle, and that will be gloved by Correa. Correa! Tremendous play.
I'm glad I didn't hit that ball because I would be hot right about now. Now, he didn't have a chance to try to get his body back in throwing position, and comes up with a throw that didn't have a lot on it, but enough to get the out. That is really something.
He took it right away from Altuve and got enough on that throw while he was moving toward the right field corner.
That's tough.
Did that ball hit Fister's foot?
It was close going by there. I couldn't tell for sure.
Probably not.
Does he need one more assist to be able to make the All-Star squad?
No. He doesn't need a bruised foot either.
No, he doesn't.
Yunel Escobar takes ball 1. But yeah, that's a valid suggestion about Fister getting all-star consideration with the way he has pitched. There's a shot into left field on the ground for Escobar. Hit number 1 for the Halos.
He can swing it. Once upon a time, a pretty good shortstop too.
He's aboard for Cole Calhoun. Calhoun struck out in the first inning. Fister has struck out 53 this year. He's in his 83rd inning. Primarily is a pitch to contact guy, and the batting average against him is just .240. This one kicks away from Castro, and the runner goes.
Looking now at our forward spray chart. What's going on with Cole Calhoun here in the month of June when he's been swinging it so well, using the whole field. The last couple of years against the Astros, he used left field extremely well, but he's also a power guy, and he tends to, like most power hitters, pull those big home runs. I'm sure Doug Fister would rather keep him to left field.
That's a wild pitch, getting Escobar to second. Brett Dolan talked about it. The Astros record with Fister on the mound is 10-3. And that's what he's done so well. Use that part of the strike zone to complement his sinker. 1-1. Mike Matheny talked about his success at using the top part of the zone after he beat the Cardinals last time out. And he does that. He drops in that 77-mile-per-hour changeup right on the edge.
Wasn't ideally placed in terms of staying down at the knees, but like you say, right on that black edge.
Fister is 2 years removed from going 16-6 with Washington with a 2.41 ERA. And the reason the Astros were able to sign him for somewhere around $8 million, I believe he has some incentives, was that he was 5-7 last year for Washington with a 4.19 and spent some time on the disabled list. So
yeah, the question marks about the arm, I think, were huge.
Right. He's 32 years old. He could very well have some nice years ahead of him. 2 balls, 2 strikes. The Astros have won Fister's last 9 starts. 3 of those were extra inning games, though. They haven't won 9 straight starts by a pitcher since Colin McHugh. And they won 11 straight McHugh starts.
There's that curveball that put Calhoun away back in the first inning.
Yeah, if you're Fister, you just want to stay in that kind of groove. Since the start of May, he's 6-0 with a 2.35 ERA in 9 starts. And during that span, he's 3rd among American League pitchers in ERA. Roll to first. Marwin has it. 2 outs. Escobar to 3rd.
Fister really has Calhoun off balance. Just a one-hand reaching swing on that sinker.
Mike Trout to the plate. He reached on the error by Carlos Correa in the first inning. .300 batting average, 14 homers, 47 runs batted in. The usual Mike Trout season underway. He has set the bar very high.
And he seems to stay right around that bar at all times.
In tight for ball 1 on Trout.
Saw Trout nodding his head right there, and my initial reaction is he saying, okay, you want to play that way with me? And I don't think you ever want to get a Mike Trout feeling that way.
He fouls that one in. It's 1-1.
I wouldn't be surprised that that swing right there had intentions of trying to launch one immediately before the ball game. Mike Trout's going to lose a dance contest? I don't know.
No, that's not happening.
Of course, orbit's pretty good.
And for a strike. 1-2.
Keep on painting away all night long.
Trout began this season a .304 career hitter. Plays off, and it's 2-2. Rookie of the year in 2012. MVP in 14. Last year he belted 41 homers and drove in 90 runs. Led the league in slugging. Good block by Castro. 3-2.
Getting his work in, doing it well.
Trout's finished 2nd in the MVP voting twice.
I was going to say, when he's had a down year, he finishes 2nd.
That one hit him after the earlier inside pitch. It may have hit the knob of the bat. Fister's going to field it and take it to first. And Trout is holding up his left arm as if to say, no, it hit me, not the bat. A.J. Hinch is coming out. And Ramon De Jesus is going to call the umpiring crew together and see if someone else saw it differently. Trout, meanwhile, is walking up the first base line.
See if anybody 100+ feet away could tell if that hit the knob or the hand. Yeah, I would say the only way you're going to get this accurate is to take the look we're looking at right now. Knob or hand. That is knob.
That's knob.
That is all knob. And I'll bet A.J. Hinch has that word.
The crew chief, Gary Cederstrom, is talking with A.J. right now. Well, the sound is something that can be heard from the dugout.
You can get deceived, though. I will say that at home plate, unless I was just part of being deceived many times. But it's funny how the bone around the wrist area can sound like a bat knob at times. They're going to take a look at this one, and I think when they do, Doug Fister is going to have another out recorded.
And now Mike Scioscia is coming over to talk with Cedarstrom, the crew chief. That angle we saw from behind the batter looked to be the telling angle.
Yeah, you're right. This angle right here.
There's no hand there.
Nope.
To be hit.
Nope,
right,
that's all knob, Brownie.
Right on the end of the knob. It's pretty clear cut on that view.
Yep. I completely agree.
Now the crowd here is seeing that view up on El Grande. Fred Dolan.
Hey guys, the Astros are behind the mound, and Marwin Gonzalez turned over to Mike Trout and said, hey, you've got to shake your hand, you got to sell it a little better. Whatever Trout said probably hit the knob of the bat, cracked them all up, because I think he was pretty honest with him that he didn't get hit on the hand, he got hit on the knob of the bat instead.
Well, Mike Trout in La La Land is surrounded by actors. Why not do a little acting?
He might do a little acting before he's done in the limelight at some point. Pete Falcone, former Major League left-hand pitcher there, dealing with the umpires.
Oh, yeah. You pointed that out earlier this year.
Colby Rasmus has decided there's no reason to hang around on the field.
Colby's already made his call. He's in the dugout.
Oh, what are you guys thinking? Do you see that?
Hey, fellas. It's a given.
Mike Trout working on his acting skills as we speak.
Now Colby's decided it's out number 3. He's sitting on the bench.
How long does that take in New York to look at what we saw and say that hit the knob?
They'll look at different angles.
Well, I get that, but you know, I really am a proponent of the replay system, but I do think it can be done more quickly at times. I'm not sure why it seems to take as long as it does out of New York.
It has to be clear and convincing.
Well, I was clearly convinced that hit the knob.
It was for you, right?
And I think AJ feels the same way. I don't know, if you're sitting in that chair in New York and you're supposed to evaluate that play without any partiality, how do you see that play?
The way the replay showed us that it hit the very end of the bat and did not hit flesh.
Well, that sounds fairly concise to me.
Okay.
Colby's a believer in our judgment here.
To credit him, he's gotten himself about a 5-minute break from being on his feet. Of course, his brother is over on the other side of the field in the bullpen with the Angels, Corey Rasmus.
It's probably who he's trying to get away from.
Yeah.
Probably taking some serious ribbing out there in left. Yeah, there's nothing here beyond what did that ball hit. It doesn't matter where the ball initially rolled, came off the plate, any of that sort of thing.
He's out. The ball hit the bat, and it's a ground out from 1 to 3. So no runs, 1 hit, 1 man left. We go to the bottom of the 3rd. 3-0 Astros. Presented by GulloAuto.com. Altuve and Biggio sitting side by side in the stands. Hey, Craig Biggio was out before the game. We had a nice chat with him.
You know, he was talking about it, Jose Altuve, and how impressed he is and has been for a long time. And we got to talking about how difficult it is for a guy of Altuve's physical stature to be able to get a chance to play in the major leagues, get a chance for anybody to look at him seriously. But once they did take a peek and finally give him a chance, well, nobody's ever seized it more.
Craig told us when he was with the Astros and Altuve was a minor leaguer, he saw him. And you asked him, what did you think? He said, I wish he were bigger.
And that was the only answer he would give, as much as I pressed it. And so I think that kind of tells what anybody's going to be thinking when they see a guy that size.
Carlos Correa looks at strike one, but then he went on to say that Altuve has done such a wonderful job of breaking down those barriers against small players.
Don't you hope so?
And the preconceived notions that people have had about players having to be such and such a height to be successful. 1 ball, 1 strike. Craig also said that his son Cavan Biggio, who just finished his junior year at Notre Dame, was drafted in the 5th round by Toronto, has signed and is about ready to start playing. 1 ball, 2 strikes. Very exciting time for the Biggio family to have Cavan in uniform making his pro debut. It's 2-2. And we'd like to send our best out to former Astros coach Matt Galante. Tonight he may be watching in New York. Fouled away. Chacin gave up 3 in the first, 2 of them earned. And he struggled through the second. He got the double play ball on Altuve after walking Springer and Gonzalez. Misses inside there on Correa and runs the count full. With 59 pitches so far, Chacin trying to hang in there for a while. The Angels did get that complete game from Weaver yesterday, the shutout. That's fouled. Up and in pitch there. Well, the crowds this weekend were tremendous here. 36,000 plus yesterday on Father's Day. 39,000 plus Saturday afternoon. 37,000 plus Friday night. A walk to Correa. That's number 5 for Chacin. Colby Rasmus is up next. He singled in a run with a hit to right field. Astros have had 2 hits, but they've drawn 4 walks and they've had a hit batter. 7 base runners so far for Chacin. The double play last inning helped him. Rasmus is now 3 for 5 against Chacin. Ball 1. The Astros hit .274 as a team in those 3 games in Anaheim. They won 2 of the 3. They scored 14 runs in those 3 games. Good pitch there, makes it 1-1. Around a bunt, Colby is not able to get it down. It's 1-2.
Colby Rasmus has been consistently willing to try to take advantage of that left side of the infield.
Third baseman Escobar's in tight. He bunts with 2 strikes, gets it down. Chacin throws, and he's got a hit. Well,
and for good reason, he's been willing to lay down some bunts.
Yeah.
I believe that's the 2nd time with 2 strikes this year that he's gotten a bunt base hit.
Yeah, at least 2. Yeah, he had 1 more that we did in a game here, and this one was a beauty with 2 strikes. He had more room. He didn't have to worry about being so precise because Escobar had moved back deeper with 2 strikes in the count.
Yeah, I'm not sure he was trying to be this delicate with it, but when it's all said and done, it just continues to feed that belief of Colby Rasmus that he can get hits that way.
Well, even if he had not made it, if he had been thrown out, it would have been a sacrifice. So good strategy.
Which is a mindset for a lot of major league hitters.
Now Gomez, he singled in a run with a hit to left field. Bouncer wide of third.
Over the last 5 or 6 games here for Carlos Gomez, he's found some success, starting to bring the numbers upward. A lot better swings, more in control. And of course, he has that running game, but you got to find a way to be on base to utilize that part of the game. A guy that can drive in runs and play center field, that's what you needed.
This one is a looper to right field, a hit in front of Calhoun. Stop sign at third, and the ball's dropped. Here comes Correa to the plate to make it 4-0. Gomez stopped on direction from the third base coach, Gary Pettis, but then Calhoun dropped the ball and he came home. And in addition, Rasmus went to third. It's a single and an error, no RBI.
Ball was hit so softly into right field that it just didn't come up, kicked even sideways on Calhoun. And when it's all said and done, another E on the board for the Angels. See how Calhoun charges, and that's part of why he's such a dangerous throwing outfielder. Stop and restart game can be tough.
That's 2 errors tonight for Calhoun, 4 for the season. Luis Valbuena walked earlier. Ball 1. Calhoun had the throwing error in the first inning. Valbuena rips one, right field corner. Calhoun back, and it's off his glove and stays in play. Rasmus is scoring, and here's a stop sign at third now for Gomez. He's going to almost fall over backwards and get back to third base. And another run scoring to give the Astros a 5-0 lead.
Now that bunt from Rasmus pays off here in the inning, and this ball raked by Valbuena. Calhoun's a good right fielder, and this still ate him up. And then there was Gomez at third base. I don't know if we'll be able to see it right here, but it was unique base running as that ball kicks off the glove of Calhoun. Very tough play. That bat from Valbuena has been paying off. See, there goes Carlos. Yeah.
Slamming on the brakes. RBI double Valbuena. That's his 12th double. RBI number 22 for Luis. 5-0. Mike Morin is working in the bullpen.
If your brakes are making you do that, go get them checked real quickly.
Evan Gattis struck out in the first inning. Runners at second and third, no outs. In the dirt, ball 1.
Yeah, these are put away runs out there early in the ball game for you.
They are. They have a chance to really open up some space here. Give Fister working room. Gaddis takes ball 2. Check out Gomez on the left.
So you get one of those breaks biting a little harder than the other, and it's just never good for your directional.
No. Up the middle by Simmons. Gomez scores, and it's 6-0 on the RBI single by Gaddis. His 29th run batted in.
Well, it's nice to pick up that run. That second run should have been picked up in my estimation. That ground ball should have been behind Valbuena as a base runner, but he went back to the bag instead, and so the Astros get just one on the base hit.
Now there's going to be a pitching change. Here you see it.
Watch Valbuena. Instead of letting that pass behind him, not an easy base running challenge, but one you'd like to be up to.
Chacin comes in. Mike Morin will be on the mound with a 6-0 Astros score in just a moment. They won by that score yesterday. It's the 3rd inning tonight, and they have runners at first and third with nobody out, with relief pitcher Mike Morin coming in relief of Chacin. He's 1-1 with a 4.08 ERA. Ash.
25 years of age, in his 3rd year now in the major leagues. He's put up some nice numbers for the Angels. 9-7 lifetime.
Morin's from Andover, Minnesota. He went to the University of North Carolina. Drafted in the 13th round in 2012 by the Halos. Facing Jason Castro, who grounded out earlier. Line drive goes foul for strike 1. That'll be a special day in the Castro family, with fatherhood for Jason this time around in 2017. What is this, 2016?
I think that's what I've heard.
Let's make it 2016.
That's the rumor.
We don't need to fast forward a year yet. 0-2. Well, maybe by 2017 he'll have another. Who knows?
I'm not out on the street a whole lot, but when I've been out there, that's what I've heard.
Okay, you're not allowed out too much these days, are you?
No, not much.
Sleeping in a tent, an oxygen tent or something?
Trying to get this program in gear.
Okay. Pretty good pitch there.
Yep.
Strikeout for out number 1.
Tough slider once you get a couple of strikes on you.
George Springer, who's walked twice, will be coming around for the 3rd time already in the 3rd inning.
That's why you hate to see any opportunity, even though it's already 6-0. If you've got a chance on that base hit by Evan Gaddis to possibly score from second base, you want to take full advantage.
Springer's a .226 career hitter against Angel pitching. Ball 1 to George. The Astros announced tonight they have signed 5 more players from the 2016 draft class, including 2 Houston area players. Chad Donato, who is from Cyprus and went to Cy Woods and went on to play at West Virginia for 3 years, signed. He was their 11th pick. Up the middle, Simmons with a flip out of the glove, and there's the relay by Petit to Cron for a double play to end the 3rd inning. The Astros come up with 3 more runs on 4 hits. They leave a man, and after 3, they're in front 6-0.
Friday, July 1st for Baseball on Tap, presented by Budweiser. Baseball on Tap kicks off at 5 p.m. Features beer tasting, live music, and a souvenir pint glass while supplies last. For tickets, visit Astros.com/baseball on tap or call 1-877-9-ASTROS.
Thanks, Mr. Brett Dolan. 6-0. The Astros lead it. Here's the 4th inning for Doug Fister. Albert Pujols the batter. And there's ball 1. He walked in the 1st. We had a question on Twitter, Ash, about that ball that hit the knob of the bat.
Yeah.
From Mike Trout in the last inning.
I tried to respond to a question or 2 there.
That's a foul ball. A loud foul ball from Albert.
I guess more accurately, I responded to. Are you talking about the questions as to, well, the ball maybe started in foul territory?
Yeah, Harry Kleinman says hit the knob, ball hit behind plate, foul ball, question. Yes, because it can hit in foul territory, but it was fielded in fair territory.
It's where the ball ends up.
Yes.
You know, there are a lot of people who through the years I've heard believe that, and this includes players, by the way, who would say that ball hit the plate. Well, it just doesn't matter. It's where the ball winds up. That's why you see guys hit those squibbers down the line, and they run down the line, or should.
Fister grabbed for it with his bare hand. Altuve makes the play. Don't know if he made contact with that baseball or not. But Altuve's smiling, and it's out number 1.
Altuve's look there basically saying, keep your hands off that stuff. I got you covered.
Yeah, I got it. Don't reach for it. He missed it.
That's a reaction by pitchers. You want to stay away from that reaction, though. And you can see Albert just simply can't run these days.
C.J. Cron takes, and there's strike 1 to him. No balls, 2 strikes. Fister does use the glove this time. That's the easy way. 2 outs. Now Brandon Flick wanted to know on Twitter, did the ump not call a dead ball when the ball hit the handle of the bat? No, he did not. And he wants to know, how can continuation of play be allowed? Well, because he did not call dead ball. That ball was in play, and Fister picked it up and tossed to first for the out.
Well, let me ask you this. If an umpire says hit batter, in essence that's what he's calling at home plate, is that not also saying dead ball?
Yes, it is. Is that what he called? Did he call?
Well, I believe he signaled that Trout should head on down to first base.
And that's probably what Mike Scioscia was arguing, right, when he came out?
Could be, but does the replay in and of itself overturn that kind of a call?
Yes. Fly ball out to Springer in right center. Out number 3. We go to the bottom of the 4th inning. 6-0 Astros. Houston Astros baseball on Root Sports is presented by Southwest Airlines. Transparency, low fares, nothing to hide. And by Whataburger. Get your day started at Whataburger with a jalapeno cheddar biscuit. And now that hockey season's over, it can't be a biscuit in a basket. 6-0 as Nolan Ryan strolls the concourse here. Oh, no, that's not Nolan.
You are always so current with
yeah, right.
the festivities in other sports and all.
I don't even know what year it is. Now, here's Marwin Gonzalez. He's been on twice, and he takes ball 1.
Did you hear back in 2016 the Cavaliers were the NBA champs?
No, I didn't. Was LeBron James involved in that?
I think so.
Okay. Might he have been the MVP?
Could have happened that way.
How did he hoist those 2 trophies after he had the broken arm on the fall he
took? I think
he
went into the clubhouse and had a splint put in real quick, or a, what do you call that, pin?
Yeah. 1 ball, 1 strike to Marwin. He's been hit by a pitch and he's walked. We looked back at the call on Mike Trout, and the person who contacted us on Twitter was correct. The umpire did put his arms up in the air, Ramon de Jesus, and point to first base.
So in essence saying dead ball,
yes,
go to first. But now comes the replay.
And the Astros alertly made the play to get the out. And then his call was overturned.
So, you know, I can think of a scenario where that could really get hazy.
Sure it could. Struck him out looking.
You tell that hitter that it's a dead ball, you go to first base, and he just kind of hangs around home plate, and the ball somehow rolls out behind the mound, and nobody gets to it until some time passes, Would the runner have been able to beat it had he not thought it was a dead ball? And that sort of a scenario.
Sure.
This one is a lot more clear cut.
Yes, it is. 923 hits for Jose Altuve. He's 0 for 2 tonight. That's ball one. That's going to be fun when those folks add a 4th digit to his hit total for his career and put up that number 1,000. Hope it happens at home. Crank to center field. Trout way back. Altuve has smashed one. Home run number 11. Oh dear. Boy.
That's where the big boys play right there.
That is a monster.
And I mean, on rare occasions do the big boys get to that point. I think he got a pitch to handle. And handle it he did.
That's his first homer since June 6th at Texas. It's been 42 at bats. Number 11 of the year, giving him 40 runs batted in.
I don't know. What does this say about the potential of the little player, the small-bodied player? Or is Jose Altuve just that much of an anomaly?
Right. He's proving a lot of people wrong. Carlos Correa takes. There's strike one to him. What a shot. He hit 15 homers all of last year. That's his major league high in one season. He has 11 now. No balls, 2 strikes to Carlos. He has 40 runs batted in now. Last year was his high, 66. And yet he is still on a pace to get 200 hits. They're just more powerful hits. There's one hit hard into left center field. Extra bases for Correa. He gets into second base with a sharp double. 10th double for Correa.
Boy, how that swing is needed on this club. This swing has been a bit of a rarity lately for Altuve. The home runs came often and early on in the season. And he's got an impressive total running right now with his 11, but even more impressive where this one wound up. Man, oh man.
Yeah, it looks like he made an impact on the Astros foundation up there, but then he has done that.
Bicep tricep area is apparently official for Luis Valbuena.
Rasmus is 2 for 2. A little roller out to second. Charged by Petit. Correa to third, 2 outs.
By the way, back to that double by Correa. That's the swing that can make so many of the men on base come home. Carlos start throwing that swing together again. It even embarrasses some of the fans to think of the potential of this young man. But that is a major league hack.
Hard hit ball. Altuve's homer was measured at 431 feet. Carlos Gomez is 2 for 2 with an RBI.
You know, I'd like to take that ball Altuve just hit and where it hit up on the wall and then have that angled toward the 436 in center field. To me, it looked like a ball that might get over that figure.
I think it would have. You're calling into question the distance?
Yeah,
okay, I'll join you in that.
I really don't. It's not a debate. I would generally want to get in, but I think that ball was hit far enough to get out of here to straightaway center. When's the last one, if you can think of any, that have ever gone out to straightaway center?
Haven't been many. Grounded foul. 1-2. Vince Cotroneo, one of the broadcasters for the Oakland A's, who used to broadcast for the Astros, was asking us that when Oakland was in town. How many balls have been hit to straightaway center for homers?
By the way, take a look at where that ball hit just left of straightaway center up there, right in that area and well up there. and then projected toward the 436. To me, that ball gets out of here.
Statcast says 431, Ash.
They are always right.
Yep. 2-2. Jose Alvarez is up in the bullpen for the Angels.
I am told the exit velocity, the all-important exit velocity, was at 105.5. So you combine that with where that ball hit, and there's no question it gets easily out of here.
Altuve is going to be slapped with a ticket. So 105 exit here. Strike three. In the fourth inning, it's 1 run on 2 hits. Altuve provides the run with his 11th bomb of the year. This was a no-doubter for Jose. Through 4, 7-0 Brush City guys. Up on the big El Grande with the Astros up 7-0 here at Minute Maid Park. Jose Altuve with his home run now has hit 47 for his Astros career. That ties Denny Walling for 36th place.
He kissed that one high off the wall in left center.
That had to be well more than 431 feet. Andrelton Simmons takes a look at ball 1. He grounded back to Doug Fister in the second inning. Fister has allowed 1 single through 4. He's walked 1. Curveball in for a strike.
Boy, Oswald just made a comeback with that pitch.
Yeah, Roy had that Bugs Bunny curveball. 8 groundouts, 1 in the air, and Fister has fanned 3.
Okay, you've seen most every game here at Minute Maid Park through the years. So getting a couple of tweets coming in about, let's see, we've got Matt Stairs hitting one in that direction.
That's true, yeah. Yeah, Matt Stairs hit a bomb there.
There's the Richie Saxon. That ball did not get out. It hit the flagpole.
But that's the best ball ever hit to center field.
Yes, it was.
That was way up on the flagpole.
Until this ball hit by Altuve.
Yeah.
Manny Ramirez is mentioned. Jock Jones. I don't know if those ring bells for you.
Some of those bells are kind of weak right now.
I hear you. Chimes.
They lost their dingers. What do we call that? The clapper? Marwin tosses to Doug Fister. That's out number 1. We go to Brett Dolan for something serious.
Well, I don't know about serious, guys, but Jock Jones, yeah, against the Minnesota Twins, or with the Twins, came into this building, hit one over that center field fence, and he did so off the Rocket, Roger Clemens.
Ooh. The Rocket didn't give up many rockets. Wonder if he was hit with the Rockets' red glare after that home run.
Roger Clemens, some of the most amazing pitching in his time with the Astros.
Yeah.
Wow.
He was living on the edges, wasn't he? In terms of home plate, that is.
Boy.
Carlos Perez takes ball 1. He struck out earlier.
Yeah, we had Roger join us in the booth somewhere earlier this season, maybe Chicago, I don't recall, but it's quite a delight to have a guy like that
You guys were in Boston when he joined you.
Is that when it was? Boston,
yeah,
yes.
He was in Boston.
Yeah. At the Fens.
He was there for some kind of a charity event I think he was going to throw batting practice to some guys, right?
He didn't throw much batting practice during regular games. I know that.
No. 2 balls and a strike. Yeah, when he was here, he just hit corners like nobody's business.
Somebody's saying that Mark McGwire put one in that direction. I don't recall that, but.
Well, that doesn't count. Liner to left field. That's a crack bad hit for Perez. 1 out single. Richie Sexson. Let's flash back.
Big, what, 6'8"?
Yeah. Wade Miller.
He launched this thing, but hold on, boys and girls. It's coming back into play. That's the flagpole that's on Towles Hill. It's in play. And Richie Sexton's like, wow, you kidding me? That ball is at least 431 feet.
If not 531. Look how high up it hit.
Yeah, that was impressive.
Gregorio Petit grounds 1 to Correa. He tosses to Altuve. Altuve relays to Gonzalez, and that's a double play to end the top of the 5th. Doug Fister is flying along with a 7-0 lead.
Astros Buddies memberships are on sale right now for only $25. Buddies members get a voucher for 4 tickets to an Astros game, VIP access to Kids Run the Bases, exclusive autograph sessions. But wait, there's more. Membership for kids up to 12 years of age are available by visiting astros.com/buddies.
7-0. Jose Altuve hit the home run. That's the only one for the Astros. They've just put some innings together here. And now pitcher number 3 is on the mound. He's Jose Alvarez, a left-hander, with a 1-2 record, a 4.68 ERA.
And that ERA up over the 4.5 mark, whip over 1.5. So he's had his share of base runners.
Mike Morin allowed 2 hits and 1 run in his 2 innings with no walks and 3 strikeouts. Luis Valbuena has an RBI double and a walk tonight. 8 hits for the Astros, 2 for the Angels. Ball 1 to Valbuena.
I think we're getting some fantasy swings recalled by some fans. Somebody mentioned Sammy Sosa hitting one up there on the grass, but I think he might have lost that one in the lights, in particular the left field lights.
That's true.
He hit probably the longest home run ever in this yard.
I would agree with that. Let's sign up for a vacation, Ash.
Let's do it. We get that 2-for-1 offer?
No. 3 balls, no strikes for Alvarez. The Astros have won 9 of their last 11 home games. Ball 4.
And the walks continue.
That's number 6 of the night.
Look, when they're handed out, take advantage, and the Astros have tonight.
Valbuena's on. Actually, we get a note from Phil Boudreau. Prince Fielder is credited with the longest home run here in 2011 against Fred Myers. That might have been upper tank in right field. 486 is the footage on that one.
Yeah, I'd love to see where that ball that Sammy Sosa hit up into the bank of lights in left field would have ended up versus the ball by Prince Fielder. And I don't know. It's part of the beauty of this game. You can tell your stories and always believe you're right.
Swing by Gaddis. No balls and 2 strikes.
But I know this much. Sammy didn't miss any of that ball he hit to left.
No. That would have wound up about Jones Hall.
Parking is free, by the way.
Okay. Gaddis is down on strikes. Jason Castro's the batter. He's 0 for 2. Cardinals lead the Cubs 3-2. They're in the bottom of the 6th at Chicago. The Redbirds had a rough week. They lost 2 straight to the Astros. They lost 3 straight to the Rangers. They're 0-5 against Texas. The state of Texas, that is. And they were really hitting. You talked about that earlier when the Astros got to town. Doug Fister certainly quieted their bats in his game. That's a strike to Castro. Astros played really sound baseball, and that saved the road trip for them. To get those last 2 games, they came back at 4-5 from that road trip.
By the way, the Texas Rangers followed the Astros going into St. Louis, won 3 straight, and the Cards have now dropped 5 straight. So the Astros really put them in a bad spot.
Yeah. And they're already in a bad spot. They're in a division with the Cubs.
Isn't that true?
So the wild card seems to be about the only thing reasonably remaining for anybody who wants to get into the playoffs other than the Cubs. The Cubs are 47-20. They're 25-8 at home.
They're fast, but will they last, I guess, is the question.
What do you think?
You know, I was just thinking that here recently, I know the Giants have made some people take notice of their ball club. The Cardinals had been until the 5 straight losses. But I ultimately think the American League clubs are just tougher.
Off the plate.
I don't know if the streak still continues, Brownie, but is there still a double-digit streak going with the American League clubs winning in interleague play against the National?
It's been a pretty long streak, I believe. We'll have to check. It's way up there in the air, and the left fielder comes over for it. Daniel Nava. 2 outs. I was just looking at the stat sheet, the AL West versus the NL this year in interleague play. Texas is 5-1. Seattle is 6-1. Houston is 8-4. The Angels 6-9. Oakland 1-4. So it would appear if you're going to be in contention for this division, you've got to do well against the National League this year, at least so far.
Of course, one bottom line for the Astros at some point, got to find a way to start beating the Texas Rangers.
Yep. Strike 1 to George Springer. He's walked twice.
But in the meantime, and pardon me, it doesn't hurt to keep beating the other clubs.
Right. Well, you pointed out earlier the Astros have 50 games remaining against the American League West of their 92 games left, including this one. And they are 1-9 against Texas. Check swing there by Springer. They're 10-16 against the clubs in their division. Well, thanks to Boods, we have the answer to your question. 13 years in a row the American League has beaten the National League in interleague play.
Is that just one of those fluke stats?
No.
After 13 years, I think it's pretty convincing.
It's not a small sample.
Yeah.
So 2003 was the last time the National League won head-to-head regular season play. Well, we are somewhat uniquely qualified, having seen a lot of National League baseball and switched over to the American League to try to compare. Springer goes down on a knee with that foul ball.
Yeah, the thing is, when in the National League, I don't think you see it that way. But I do think you have to fairly look at the numbers. And after 13 years, it would appear that the American League has been the stronger league. Jose Altuve contemplating that very point.
He's a part of the reason, you know, there are just so many good young players, and there are two in the National League. Springer hits one slowly. Escobar throws to second to get the force play on Valbuena. And now we go to the 6th inning, and it's Doug Fister's game. He takes a 7-0 lead out to the mound for the 6th. From Marty Brenneman on the Astros outfield, and the Hall of Fame broadcaster from the Reds said some of the best defense I've seen in quite some time. Yes, it was Carlos Gomez, it was George Springer, it was Colby Rasmus, and it was Jake Marisnick really doing a number on the Reds in that series.
Yeah, Jake is that fourth guy that may be the best of the bunch defensively, but it's quite a group there, quartet in the outfield that can go get it.
There's strike one for Doug Fister to Yunel Escobar. He's 1 for 2. Fister's allowed 2 singles through 5. 1-1. Ironically, we were impressed by the Reds' defensive play in their outfield in the series also. A.J. Ochter warming up for the Angels now. Billy Hamilton was amazing over the weekend.
He can go get it a bit, can't
he? He is a blur. There's Ochter getting loose. The 2-ball 1-strike count for Fister. He's at 71 pitches for the night. A.J. Hinch has talked about the innings pitched by his bullpen this year. 235 innings. That ranks 3rd in the American League as far as relief innings pitched. And he would love to have more games like the one yesterday, using only 2 pitchers total, and the one tonight so far. Keep those bullpen appearances down. Big curveball and a strikeout of Escobar.
That's the pitch that got strikeout number 1 on the night for Doug Fister. That curveball back in the first inning to Cole Calhoun, and he bends off another beauty. Hard to wait on that thing.
Calhoun comes around for the 3rd time after striking out in the first. He grounded out in the 3rd. Now Ken Giles leads the Astros in relief appearances with 33. And they played 70 games, so that's a very strong pace for appearances. Will Harris has 31. Luke Gregerson has 30. Tony Sipp has 29. Pat Neshek 27.
I might have guessed Will Harris with the most outings.
Yep. 1 ball, 1 strike for Calhoun in that Cardinal Cub game. 3-2 St. Louis, bottom of the 6th inning in Chicago. John Lackey pitching for the Cubs. Jaime Garcia for the Redbirds. Johnny Peralta hit his 2nd homer. Brandon Moss, number 16. Cubs had rookie catcher Wilson Contreras, who hit a home run in his first major league bat. I think it was first pitch he saw in the major leagues last night, and he's catching again tonight.
Easy game.
Boy, they have had the young talent.
It's the Joe Madden effect.
It doesn't hurt. He's really respected by his players, and he has fun. Three balls and a strike.
We got that question, Brownie, as to what is it that makes the American League clubs maybe stronger year after year than the National? And I don't know. We were debating some different things, among them that maybe some more large market teams that are willing to spend more money.
I think that's part of it, and it doesn't mean the money's going to be spent responsibly and well. But for instance, in the American League East, the Yankees have long been known for high payrolls. So have the Red Sox. That's a strike, and it's 3-2. So that means if you're the Toronto Blue Jays, you want to feel like to compete with them, you probably have to be fairly much in lockstep with payroll. And Baltimore.
Another pretty good point that comes back is that during that same 13-year time frame is that the National League has a 7-6 World Series lead over the American League. So maybe a nice balance.
Sure. That's a walk to Calhoun. That's the 2nd of the night for Fister. Above and beyond that, though, I think the payrolls are pretty high for instance, the Angels, the Rangers, Seattle has spent a lot of money recently for the Robinson Canoes of the world, and the White Sox have been known to spend money in the Central Division. Detroit has been a free spending team. Doesn't mean it's going to get you the best team. Kansas City proved that it's not necessary to spend a top dollar to win a World Series.
Yeah, I wonder how fair those assessments are on that possibly anomaly type year for a club that just breaks out with some young talent.
I think the scary thing, though, as far as trying to compete with some of these teams, is the cost of doing business in terms of attracting, we'll say, a frontline starting pitcher for a multi-year deal as a free agent. 2-1, and that's the bridge the Astros are going to have to cross at some point.
One of the fans letting us know that the American League gets an advantage with the extra batter, but keep in mind when you go to the National League Park, the pitcher hits. You don't have the DH.
Right.
And so to me, that's a big advantage that swings nationally.
I think, yes, the National League should have an advantage in its own park. Playing its style of game doesn't always work out that way. That is going to have some hang time. George Springer underneath with the catch.
Follow the Astros baseball live with MLB.com @bat. That's the app. Stay up to the moment with Game Day, StatCast, live highlights, and more, even when you're at the game with Minute Maid Park's new Wi-Fi. Download the app for your phone or tablet. You can do it right now.
Albert Pujols comes up. Fans here love to boo him because of how well he's played against the Astros down over the years. Not quite as intense tonight as it's a 7-0 score. He is 0 for 1 with a walk. He clocks that one foul. We wanted to mention one other signing of a local player by the Astros from the 2016 draft. Ryan Burke, product of Katy. He went to Seven Lakes High School and then on to Texas A&M. He's an infielder, and he just signed today. 13th round pick. And his name is spelled R-Y-N-E, as in Ryan Sandberg. Mark Berman of Channel 26 was saying that he had found out that Ryan Burke's parents are big Cubs fans, so their choice of names when the baby boy came along was either Ryan or Ernie. Ernie Banks.
Ron Santo's going to be very upset to hear this.
1-2 as Pujols went around. Now he's questioning the home plate umpire, Ramon de Jesus.
See if that bat drags through there as the body kind of collapses. It looked like Albert held it back pretty well. Yeah, questionable.
The fans are getting into it now. 2 balls, 2 strikes.
You know that stat about the National League winning 7 of the last 13 World Series. World Series to me is a bit of an odd, prolonged series because most teams need only 2 to 3 starting pitchers in that span. And so it's not a total reflection on what your club does over the course of the long season.
Sure. Gomez deeper into right center, and he reaches out and is unable to catch it. It's rolling on the warning track. Pujols limping into second, and the Angels have a run on a double by Pujols. He gets his 45th run batted in, and the Angels are on the board trailing 7-1.
Tough play, but I'm not sure this was the most direct route run by Carlos Gomez as he dashed toward George Springer and then had to go back. Watch this route. Yeah. See, at the end, he's running right away from home plate, but up until then, he was on a poor chase for that ball.
Pujols with the RBI double ends the streak of 17 consecutive shutout innings for Astros pitching. C.J. Cron puts one in the air deep to left center field. Gomez back for this one. He will play the carom as the run scores. Throw into second is wide, and it's 7-2. Back-to-back RBI doubles. Cron his 12th double of the year and his 30th run batted in.
Cron's a big, strong guy, and that's a pretty good pitch down and away that he puts the barrel on.
He got his arms extended very well and drove the ball pretty high off that wall. Now a 5-run lead for the Astros. That's 4 hits for the Halos. Nava is 0 for 2. Nava takes ball 1. Daniel's a native of Redwood City, California. He went to Santa Clara University. Signed as a free agent by Boston, undrafted player in 06. He hit a grand slam on his first pitch in the majors. Michael Feliz is warming up for Houston. Fister deals, and it's 2-0. 91 pitches for Doug now. He has certainly helped the Astros pitching staff hold things together this season. In for a strike, 2-1. Been a great signing for General Manager Jeff Luhnow. When Pfister came aboard, it seemed that the Astros may have an extra starting pitcher, but Lance McCullers then was injured in spring training. Both Pfister and Scott Feldman opening the season in the rotation, and when McCullers was added to the rotation, Feldman moved seamlessly to the bullpen, where he has been excellent.
It's kind of an example also of not being able to figure out exactly what you have in spring training. Doug Pfister, toward the second half of the spring, struggled. He was trying to work in some of maybe a change in philosophy, coming up in the strike zone at times, and it wasn't all coming together.
Well, to his credit, he has stayed with that plan, and McCullers has worked his way into the rotation very nicely. The Astros have improved, and they are now 6th in ERA in the American League.
And the bullpen is 3rd best in the league.
Yeah. 3-2. Astros ERA at home is just excellent this year. .14. Foul ball. Still 3-2 to Nava.
Now somebody out there is going to say, well, that ball wound up fair. Why is that not a fair ball? Well, it hits the foot or body of the hitter.
If the ball bounces foul and does not make contact with any player or any object and then goes fair, it's a fair ball when it's touched.
Look, if somebody squibs one up the first base line, for example, and it rolls 89 feet in foul territory and comes back in that final few inches inside the bag, it's a fair ball.
Nava strikes out. 2-run score on 2 hits with a man left. 5 strikeouts for Pfister and a 7-2 lead.
Then we have a winner in our Chevy Stro poll. Earlier we posed the question to you, which recent move has helped the Astros the most? Overwhelmingly, the fans tonight say Springer moving to the leadoff spot at 71%. And guys, I didn't vote officially because my kids have mutilated my data plan for the month, but if I had a vote, I still say shifting the bullpen roles around and their success has been more important. But the fans say Springer to the leadoff position for our Chevy Stro poll.
Wait a minute. You and Betsy have done an excellent job of getting your kids off the phones and out there playing ball. So how does this happen?
Yeah, not good enough. I'm about to give them paper, pencil, and stamps and tell them that's how they can communicate with their friends and family the rest of the year, because apparently 10 and 14 is still too young for them to go out and get jobs and pay for this themselves. Ooh. That's what I'm told. I don't know.
Turn back the clock. Summer in the Dolan household. Strike one to Marwin Gonzalez.
I'd love to see what kids do if you hand them a stamp. What do you do with this?
What's this for? Marwin struck out looking in the fourth after being hit by a pitch and drawing a walk. And the shift is aligned perfectly for Petit to make that play. One out. Let's check what happened in the fourth inning here.
The big fly happened. And I mean, of the 11 this year by Jose Altuve, maybe of his career, this might be the big one.
Doing a little wiggle there on the bench.
Yeah, he was.
That was a big man's homer. He's 1 for 3 in this game. We are impressed by many things about Jose, and I think the overriding thing is he just wants to win. He's willing to do anything as far as sacrificing his own offensive production if it means winning. But look at his offensive production. He hasn't sacrificed a whole lot, right?
Yeah, that's really a shame the way the numbers have dropped off compared to the batting championship year at 341. Hope everything comes around, Jose.
That's a slump.
Wow.
517 slugging. That adds to it with a single, giving him a 2 for 4 game. 95 hits. Move over Bob Aspromonte on the all-time Houston hit list.
Just another measly single. Look at this swing, though. That's the kind of swing that generates that long home run that he hit. And if he gets that barrel under that ball just a little bit, you're watching one launch to left.
Bob Aspromonte, just a great friend to both of us and so many people in this community. Was a terrific player in the first years of this franchise. And Altuve has equaled his hit total now in club history. 925 hits. Altuve has needed 739 games for his 925 hits. Aspro played 1,007 games to get his 925. But he didn't bat at the top of the lineup.
Most Astros fans know about Bob Aspromonte. Bob has a brother.
Watch it go. Carlos Correa way up on the wall. That's a tape measure shot. Number 10.
Do you recall his last at bat in the double? And I talked about that swing that launched that line drive double into left center field. And I feel like it's been missing much of the season. But when that swing comes around, this kind of partying will be accompanying.
2-run homer, giving Correa 36 runs batted in.
That's pure power that you're not going to stop right there.
A.J. Ochter gave up a flyer. Now he throws, and there's strike one to Colby Rasmus. Rasmus 2 for 3 with an RBI. 9-2 Astros, and the building is stirring with these tape measure shots.
Yeah, I think it happens every time, Brownie, I start to talk about Bob Aspromonte's brother,
Yeah.
Ken Aspromonte,
Right.
which I was trying to do before that home run was rudely hammered. But yeah, Ken was a major league player as well, and a major league manager, my first in the bigs.
Yeah, when you talk about the Aspro brothers, home runs just break out.
Happens every time.
1 and 2. What a shot from Correa. Two balls and 2 strikes. Astros now have hit 44 home runs at home. Their opponents have hit 28. Sharply hit into center. Third hit of the night for Rasmus. He's had some downtime the last few weeks.
Yeah, that bat could be utilized, couldn't it? Academy Sports and Outdoors and the Houston Astros are hitting home runs for Houston. Take, for example, Jeff Bagwell. June 20th, 1995, hit his 100th career home run at Montreal. Up from Gil Heredia. He would add a few more following that swing.
Gomez hits one into right field for a single, his third hit of the night. Rasmus just got his first 3-hit game of the year, and Gomez gets his second. Meanwhile, Correa has just passed Andujar Cedeno on the home run list for Astros shortstops all time.
For Carlos Gomez, it's kind of one of those nights where you learn it's not how hard you hit him all the time. It's how intelligently you go after the pitch, and that's well done.
Well, he hit the ball to right field yesterday for a double. Now 2 singles to right field in this game. Valbuena has a double tonight. There's ball 1. Correa just tied Steve Finley with 32 home runs. 51st overall on the Astros all-time list. And Craig Reynolds as well. Lunging attempt by Petit, but it's on through for a hit. Rasmus to third, and the bases are loaded. Valbuena gets a broken bat single, and he's been on base all 4 times. Fans are loving this show.
Just don't make them like they used to. Tell you what, there's not a hitter around baseball who wouldn't give up his bat for any knock he can find. Very tough one to be that lead base runner. Colby Rasmus had to freeze a long while.
1 out, bases loaded for Evan Gattis. Gattis is 1 for 3, an RBI single. He looks at ball 1. Mariners and Tigers are tied 7-7 there in the top of the 9th at Detroit. Rangers lead the Orioles 4-3, bottom of the 6th at Texas. That must be a makeup game, because the Reds are opening at Texas tomorrow night. 2 balls, no strikes, as the bases are occupied with Rasmus, Gomez, and Valbuena. Foul back with a good cut. 2-1 to Evan.
Indeed was a good hack. A night like this can go a long ways for your offense.
Ground ball, Simmons. Simmons gets it to second quickly. Petit fires on to first to Cron for a double play. And the Astros wind up with 2 runs on 5 hits. They leave a man. Correa with a mammoth shot. Number 10 of the year. 9-2 Houston.
Florida tundra. As we take a look at Doug Fister, we talked about him at the top of the ball game. 10 quality starts already. He's put one together at this point. Of course, he has to have to continue to move forward and maintain those numbers. But Doug Fister just continues to give the Astros a great chance to win. They've won 9 consecutive starts coming in, put up by Doug Fister.
Now as Fister goes out with a 9-2 lead, we have a different outfield alignment. We'll tell you about that. Simmons the batter. There's strike one. George Springer's come out of the game. Tony Kemp has moved into left field. Colby Rasmus has switched to right field. Springer was 0 for 2 with a pair of walks. Why not rest his legs for a few innings with the big 7-run lead. 0-2. Pirates beat the Giants 1-0 in Pittsburgh. Jeff Locke and 3 relievers combining on the shutout, beating Madison Bumgarner. He gave up a homer to Eric Kratz for the only run.
Good for Kratzy.
Yeah.
You know, I really liked his catching game. You know, that hitting side has been the problem.
Michael Feliz is in the bullpen. Fister delivers ball 2.
I wonder if this might not be another game like yesterday's where A.J. Hinch hopes one guy can lock down the remaining innings.
Feliz could be the man to finish it. Liner right field line. Ooh, good attempt there by the ball boy.
Solid effort.
Yeah.
I hate to be sitting in that seat right behind as the glove goes in front and misses.
That's true. He was trying to protect him. He got a good jump.
Yeah, we'll take your word for it.
3-2.
Did he get a good jump? Let's see. Well, at that point he was certainly on the move, but I think you got to lay out on that play.
Okay. You have high standards.
I think he has high standards. There's disappointment fuming underneath right there.
Correa backhands. Look at this play.
Wow. You know, here this evening, the LA Angels of Anaheim are playing a major league club. Andrelton Simmons has done it a few times to others. Take that. And the throw right on the money.
Perfect. Gorgeous play. Strike to Perez. He's 1 for 2. Dodgers lead the Nationals 1-0. They're in the top of the 2nd inning in Los Angeles. Clayton Kershaw on the mound against Yusmeiro Petit. He is subbing for the injured Steven Strasburg. Liner caught by Marlin, the only infielder between first and second. For out number 2, Fister was hustling over to first base.
I don't think Marlin's going to need to check the lacing in the web of that glove after making this play.
Stayed up for him a few seconds. Petit is 0 for 2. He proved to be a good glove man with the Astros. Arizona beat Philadelphia today 3-1. Michael Bourne's making some good plays. Good to see him healthy again.
Boy, he made some terrific defensive plays against Houston.
He's running well again now. Correa to his left. Just do it all. Bottom of the 7th is coming. It's been the Carlos Correa show, among others tonight. 9-2 Houston.
May Park. It's time to play Name That Astro, brought to you by your local Honda dealer. We have some interesting clues this evening. Played 9 major league seasons, former manager of the Corpus Christi Hooks, and he got bumped by Alan Ashby.
What?
That's a good clue to stir on right there, guys.
And he got bumped.
We've all been bumped by Alan Ashby. Accidentally, of course. Just getting on an airplane. No, just kidding. You wouldn't do that.
I feel greatly offended right now.
Jason Castro's the batter. We have wholesale changes for Mike Scioscia. He fouls it back, strike 1, as the Astros bat in the home 7th inning. Octor is still on the mound, but we have changes for Mike Scioscia's club. He has Johnny Giovatella playing second base. Shane Robinson in center field. Daniel Nava has shifted to right field. Jeffrey Marte's in left field. Foul back, 0-2.
Doug Fister still had that game face on down in the dugout, but just another outstanding game by Doug.
Really solid. 7 innings, 4 hits, 2 runs for Fister tonight. Fouled away. Alvarez in 1 inning allowed no hits, no runs with 1 walk, 1 strikeout. Then Octor came in last inning in the 6th. So this could be 10 straight starts. The Astros have won with Fister on the mound. Colin McHugh set the club record with an 11-game run in which they won starts for McHugh. A deep drive to left field, way up, and that might be out. Yes, that's above the yellow line for a Castro homer, a monster shot. Number 6 of the year for Castro.
Man, this is an impressive explosion. Going the other way, left center field for a left-hand hitter up in that area. Mats Berkman apparently is potentially wearing that uniform of Castro tonight. Wow. That is all over the sweet spot.
18 runs batted in for Jason. Hit the railing above that yellow line. Now Scioscia's coming out, saying something to the home plate umpire, Ramon De Jesus.
I think he's potentially asking for a replay on this. Did it hit above the yellow line, or did it hit right on the edge of the top of the yellow line?
I thought it hit on the top of it. Let's see what we have from Heath Turner here.
It's a good-looking bunch of players right there.
Ah, Billy D, Billy Doran, Kevin Bass, you. Who else is up there?
You know,
is that Ty Waller?
Ty Waller. Wait, no. Let's see. There's Jerry Mumphrey right next to me.
All right.
And actually, I need another peek. I was only looking at the big guy on the left standing.
Meanwhile, they're reviewing that home run call for Castro.
Yeah, I honestly couldn't tell watching that ball hit the top there.
Well, of course, if it hit the yellow line, then it would have been in play because it bounced back onto the field.
Kind of had that trajectory of a ball hitting right at the edge. Yep. That's going to take the dinger away from Jason Castro. See how that ball pops right back, somewhat up?
Might it have brushed the railing coming down?
Potentially. Yeah. Well, how about on the way up right here? Does it go back and touch the railing?
Yeah,
I don't know.
Not sure.
I don't know. I could see New York saying that's not a home run, but I think I may, by the way, have seen the correct answer on named that Astro tonight.
Okay. It's a home run.
Good for Jason Castro.
Keep it on the board. 10-2 Astros.
That's a tough read on that. I thought possibly it hit the top of the yellow line.
Here's your in-game box. 3 hits for Rasmus, 3 for Gomez. A lot of other damage there. Tony Kemp, who's in the leadoff spot, will come up. His first time to the plate. He has not had much playing time lately. Tony, a .211 hitter, has no homers, 3 runs batted in. He's had 38 at bats. He grounds to first base. Crone is there. 1 out. Oh, it's a nice opportunity here for A.J. Hinch to get some people in the game, like Kemp, who haven't been seeing a whole lot of action lately, and also to rest the guys who have been grinding for him, like Springer. Springer plays hard, plays all out.
You know, and it's also a challenge when your 2 catchers, your second catcher is also your DH, Evan Gattis, and so it's hard to get Castro a little bit of time off.
Yes, it is. Marwin Gonzalez with strike 1. 0 for 2. He was hit by a pitch and he walked. 10 runs on 14 hits for Houston, which has committed 1 error and left 8 men on base. For the Angels, it's 2-4-2 with 4 men left. Altuve will be next. He's had a little bit of a break lately. He DH'd 1 game.
Talking Altuve, I think he would tell you straight up, I don't want to break. Maybe DH once in a while, but
you're right.
I think sometimes, and I've known plenty of guys that felt like a day off was a day of the nerves just driving you crazy. When am I getting in? What am I going to do? Whereas you go out and play and do what you're accustomed to doing every day, that it's actually easier at times.
Way inside. Doctor. Marwin's probably hurting right now. He was hit by a pitch inside the left knee earlier.
I think he's going to bail when a pitch comes toward that left knee.
Oh yeah.
Anytime soon.
Ever hit your thumb with a hammer?
Yeah, it's been a while, but I still feel it occasionally.
Well, then didn't you whack it again on something else within the next week? Right.
You know it's going to happen, right? Even if it's just that toothbrush, it hurts that much.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right.
There have been a whole lot of dental floss injuries that I can remember.
It's a dangerous sport.
Line drive into center field. He reached out and sent it back through the middle for a single for Marwin.
Get a gift card, or rather just a gift, for the Astros fan in your life, and have your special massage. Become part of the Minute Maid Park forever with the Houston Astros commemorative brick paver program. Is that message?
You get a massage with that?
Maybe that's just a message.
Oh, I thought you wanted to get a massage with the bricks.
If you care for a massage, think of it that way.
Okay.
Visit astros.com/bricks for more details.
Let's do the massage thing.
I'm going massage all the way.
With the hot bricks. Altuve takes a strike. He's had a homer, a single. He scored 2 runs. He's now scored 50 runs this year, Ash.
I'm alphabetically challenged right now, Brownie.
Well, you've had the hot brick treatment, right? When you go for a massage.
Oh man, how I would love that right now.
Hot bricks, yeah. That might steam some of that cold out of you, pal.
I'll leave the hair on my chest.
Fly ball to right field. Daniel Nava's coming in for it and making the catch. 2 down.
Can I read that one again?
Sure. Danny Worth is going to pinch hit here for Carlos Correa. What a night for Correa. A double, a homer, which was a tape measure shot, and a walk. He drove in 3. He scored 2, made a couple of outstanding plays. And a good chance for Worth to get an at bat too. He just joined the club a few days ago. He's gone 4 for 18 after hitting .340 at AAA Fresno. Ball one to Worth. He looks like a guy who can really contribute because he can play the various positions, and he's been in the big leagues before in this role.
Yeah, and he plays the positions well. He's not just one of those guys you throw out there because somebody said maybe he could play there. Back in spring training, apparently he had talked about the fact that he felt like he had found something with the bat, and statistically it bears out.
He's a Pepperdine product. In for a strike.
I don't remember, did Mike Scott
hit
Pepperdine?
He did. He may have dined at Pepperdine too, knowing Scotty.
More than once.
He may have even played golf at Pepperdine. 2 balls and 2 strikes. Have you been to that campus?
Well, I've been out there, yes.
Oh.
Not on the campus.
Right on the beach. Gorgeous campus.
Yeah. That sounds like Scotty. Of course, he'll probably not be found on the beach very often, but very near at the golf courses.
I know his golf balls are never on the beach.
You haven't played with him, have you?
No, I haven't, actually. He would never condescend to that. 3 balls and 2 strikes.
Vicky Scott might be listening right about now.
Vicky Scott's one of about 8 people in the world who would be listening right now.
Run that by me again. You talking about since I read that promo?
And you're not one of them. Fly ball to right. Here's Nava with the catch. 1 run on 1 hit and a man left. After 7, the Astros lead it 10-2.
Through 7 innings. Time to name that Astro, brought to you by your local Honda dealer. Here are our clues. Played 9 major league seasons, managed the Corpus Christi Hooks, and he was bumped by Alan Ashby. So let's go to Twitter and see what some of the fans had to guess.
I got to know.
Bat Flip Lawless was in there, Dave Clark, but you see Doug Watley. He was the winner tonight. He guessed Luis Pujols. And of course, when Alan Ashby was acquired by the Houston Astros, Pujols was the odd man out of town, and he didn't even get a massage out of the deal, from what I hear, guys.
Yeah, that's horrible. That is horrible. Louis, good man, by the way.
Check that out. We need one of those.
Yeah. By the way, I need to add a little to that Louis Pujols story.
All right, Michael Feliz, 4-1, a 3.23 ERA. Facing Yunel Escobar. There's strike 1. What do you have on Louis?
You know, when I came to the Astros, I don't recall exactly the beginning or shortly thereafter, but Louis Pujols and Bruce Bochy were a couple of the catchers on this club. So I kind of became that other guy, the third guy of the 3, and guess which of the 2 turned out to be major league managers?
I would say Mr. Pujols and Mr. Bochy.
That is the truth. And Mr. Bochy's going to wind up in the Hall of Fame, by the way, as a skip.
He is, but you managed.
I did a little minor league managing. That doesn't count.
Yes, it does.
Does it?
It's on your baseball card.
Well, thanks.
1-2. Phillies coming in after Pfister throws 108 pitches, 67 for strikes. He goes 7 innings, allowing 4 hits, 2 runs, walking 2, fanning 5. Just another excellent night for Doug Pfister. And a strikeout here for Phillies. This pitching performance is powered by Kubota. Chris Davinsky really saved the bullpen yesterday. 3 1/3 innings, 1 hit, no runs, getting his first career major league save.
Yeah, that can really get overlooked by a number of people, but not by the skip and by the pitching coach Brent Strom. Davinsky really gave the club what they needed, and it's happened more than once this year.
He had not pitched in 10 days. Really stretched it out. Johnny Giavotella is the batter. And he checks his swing on appeal to first. There's ball 1. 22,553 is the paid attendance. Giavotella batting in the number 2 spot in the order. Plays a lot of second base for this club. Pitch is up for ball 2. If the Astros win this game, it would be the 7th straight win for Pfister, who has not lost since April 25th. And it would be the 10th straight Pfister start the Astros have won. That's a shot to left field. That'll go way over Tony Kemp. And that's a home run. 10-3 ball game as Giavotella takes it out.
Michael, excuse me, Brownie.
Okay.
I was just going to say Michael Feliz dropped 96 right there that got turned around in a hurry.
Yes, he did. 6 homers for Giavotella.
Also found a pretty good spot on the plate, and pretty good little player, but not a guy you think of as hitting that kind of drive.
There have been some awfully well hit balls tonight. Are they playing with flubber or what?
You can't hit flubber, Brownie.
Okay. I couldn't, I know that. Jeffrey Marte looks at ball 1. He's up for the first time. Giavotella rocked that one.
Are you supposed to smile on the bench when you're down 10-3 in the 8th?
If you've hit a ball like that, you're allowed to
Yes,
smile.
you're entitled. You're right.
But put your hand over your mouth or your glove or something. That's a hit through the right side. Marte's on. Back to Pfister, though, and this very good run he has put together. He has not allowed more than 3 runs in any of his last 12 starts. Albert Pujols has an RBI double. He's 1 for 2 with a walk.
In fact, the only time this year that Pfister has allowed more than 3 runs was his 2nd start on the season. That was it.
You're right. Pujols takes ball 1.
By the way, for those fans wondering who those guys, those Astros were in that
Yeah.
photo we showed an inning or so ago, along with the former catcher there on the upper left, there was Jerry Mumphrey and Tony Scott in the back row.
Yeah, Tony Scott.
And then Billy Dorn, of course,
Right.
fan favorite, and Kevin Bass, another fan favorite, up on the front row.
Right.
So that was the group.
Tony Scott was an outfielder from Cincinnati. He played center field.
You know that Tony Scott threw a baseball holding it with 1 finger?
No.
That's a fact.
How do you do that?
You know how kids will hold it with the 4 fingers and the thumb?
Yeah.
And most, professional players going to hold it with 2 fingers. Tony threw it with 1 finger.
And a thumb?
And a thumb.
Oh, okay.
He did use the opposing digit.
That makes me feel better.
Yeah.
There's the group.
Tony Scott, the upper right.
Yeah. Switch hitter.
There's 5 switch hitters in that bunch.
Ooh, that's right. So that was the reason for the photo?
I don't know.
Okay. Maybe they were just 5 good-looking guys.
Well,
I don't know what the reason.
I think I could disprove that one quickly.
3 balls and a strike. We have a question from Heath Turner on Twitter. If a batter hits a homer and breaks his bat and it's discovered to have been corked, does the run count? No. If they discover it right away. 3-2. He's out.
If a player hits a home run and has it deemed that pine tar went much too high up the handle toward the barrel of his bat, is it a home run? Let's ask George Brett.
Yeah. Foul ball by Pujols. Still 3-2. We have a question from Jonathan about we had a question the other day about balls that are thrown out of play because they hit the dirt. What becomes of them? Well, they use them for batting practice. But then Jonathan goes on to ask, what's the difference between a ball being hit in the infield and being hit thrown in the dirt at home plate? No difference.
Legit question.
Yeah, it is. Valbuena to Altuve, and then on around the horn to Marlin for a double play to end the top of the 8th. 1 run, 2 hits. Nobody left. The Astros lead at 10-3.
The deal of the season with Coca-Cola Double Play Tuesdays. Get a pair of ViewDeck 2 tickets for tomorrow's game for only $22. Bring 2 Powerade labels to the Minute Maid Park box office to purchase your tickets. We'll send things back up to Brownie and Ash.
Thank you, Brett Dolan. Up in the Coca-Cola area right there. Have a telescope on this one. 10-3 Astros. Colby Rasmus swings, and it's strike 1. A.J. Octor. Rasmus has 3 hits tonight. He has scored 2 runs. Jake Marisnick is on deck. He checked in center field for Carlos Gomez. No balls, 2 strikes for Octor. 15 hits for the Astros, 6 for the Angels in game 1 of a 3-game series. Tomorrow night at 7:10, it's Colin McHugh versus lefty Hector Santiago. Wednesday at 1:10, Lance McCullers and Matt Shoemaker. It's 1-2. Tony Sipp is doing some throwing in the Astros bullpen now. Rasmus strikes out. Brett Dolan.
Hey guys, tonight's delivery of the game is delivered to you by Jimmy John's. In the pregame show, we talked about the 5 through 9 spots in the lineup. Well, how about tonight? 10 hits, a homer, 5 RBIs, 4 runs scored, a couple of 3-hit games from Carlos Gomez, Luis Valbuena. Fun night for Kyle Calhoun mixed in. Then again, the top 3 hitters, they aren't bad either. They've had 4 hits, 6 runs, and 4 RBIs. So if you have any suggestions on our player of the game to interview post-game, I'm all ears.
You won't get a Powerade bath, though.
That's good.
With that suit you're wearing, it's a good thing.
I don't need any part of that.
Brett, I've got a suggestion. Find out who threw batting practice today.
Yeah.
There is your pick.
Yeah, he's the interview subject. How do you get these guys warmed up for a 10-run, 15-hit game? Do it again tomorrow. 2 balls and a strike. Well, with all the close games the Astros have played this year, they haven't had many like this. In fact, the one yesterday was rare, a 6-0 victory. Now they're up by 7. 3 balls and a strike. Coming into this game, they had been outscored by their opponents by 6 runs this year. Liner out to right center field. Nava with the grab. 2 outs. Marisnik hit that ball pretty well.
You keep waiting for that breakout for Jake.
Valbuena has been on all 4 times tonight. 2 walks, an RBI double, and a single. Remember about a month ago when the guys at the bottom of the order really were mired in low batting averages? And that has turned around for most of those guys.
Well, you mentioned it earlier that batting average for the club still last in the American League right now. Of course, it's a club that goes beyond just batting average. They can hit the long ball, and doubles have been a big part of things. And you mentioned also that they lead the league in walks. But when you get some guys top and bottom, middle of the order clicking at the same time, the result is what you see on the scoreboard.
0-2. Well, for a while there in May, they were playing a lot of clubs with top-notch pitching. They faced some very difficult starting pitching and good bullpen guys too. 1-2. Little roller. Simmons with the throw. That's a nice barehanded play. And we go to the 9th inning with the score 10-3.
any form, and the accounts and descriptions of this game may not be disseminated without the express written consent of Houston Astros, LLC.
Houston Astros baseball on Root Sports is presented by Southwest Airlines. Transparency, low fares, nothing to hide. By Academy Sports and Outdoors, donating $100 for each Astros home run and $200 for each Correa home run to Houston Children's Charity. And by Toyota. Let's go places. Tony Sipp takes over for the 9th inning. The Astros lead at 10-3. Michael Feliz in 1 inning allowed 2 hits, 1 run with no walks, no strikeouts. C.J. Cron leading it off. And the appeal goes down to first. Check swing, ball 1. Correction on that final play, it was not Andrelton Simmons, but Gregorio Petit who threw out Valbuena. Foul ball, 1 strike. So the Astros, who won 2 of 3 in Anaheim, now trying to claim the opener here and get their record back to 1 game under 500. It would be 35-36 with a win. Texas is winning 4-3 after 8 at home against Baltimore. White Sox beat Boston 3-1 in 10. Sipp chases it down. Bobbles again. Now he can't find the handle. And Cron is at first.
That potato was scalding right there.
It was.
Yeah, this is just an easy play for Tony, but you get a little exuberant trying to make it, and it costs you.
Never went in the pocket of that glove. He draws an error on it. Second error for the Astros tonight. Switch hitting Nava is 0 for 3. Sipp delivers ball 1. It's 2-0. Luis Valbuena is going to sign autographs and interact with fans tomorrow at 11 o'clock in the morning at the Northwest Freeway Whataburger in Jersey Village. Orbit and the Shooting Stars will accompany him 11 o'clock tomorrow in Jersey Village at the Whataburger.
It's your former neck of the woods, right?
Yeah. Line drive to right. That's in for a hit. Colby Rasmus picks it up. Not too far from there anyway.
Oh, that's Durker's area.
Yeah, that's Larry.
Yeah.
Larry will be there having a Whataburger.
Or 3.
2 on, nobody out. That's Shane Robinson coming up. This will be the first time he's batted in the game. He's in center field now. The Astros are 6 for 15 with runners in scoring position. The Angels 1 for 5. That's a really good productive night for Houston. That wrist batting average has been coming up. Still not where they'd like it to be. 246 before the game.
Which is better than the overall average for the club.
That's a good point. And for a strike on Robinson, it's 0-2. Checking some of the minor league stats before the game today. Fresno lost 1-0 last night, but A.J. Reed had a couple of hits. So did Colin Moran. Reed's hitting .256 now. He has 9 homers, 32 runs batted in. You know, it's been strange looking at Matt Duffy's numbers after the big year he had last year. And then he was with the Astros in September. He's hitting .230.
That is hard to believe.
Yeah, 5 homers, 28 runs batted in at 209 at bats.
Remember the start of the spring he had? He hit, I think, 3 home runs in the first handful of games.
That's true. Little looping fly ball hit to left field. Stop sign at third. Runners at first, second, and third now. The bases are loaded on the Robinson hit. Carlos Perez will bat. Perez is 1 for 3. Petit is on deck. Stephen Wright pitched well again tonight for Boston. 9 innings of 5-hit, 1-run baseball. The run was unearned. His ERA is 2.01.
He's going all Joe Negro on his season.
Popped up. Castro's over, but he will not be able to get to it. Now Padnishek is doing some throwing in the Astros pen. Maybe not to come in, but probably just to be ready in case a fire breaks out here in the 9th inning.
Yeah, there's a little smoldering going on.
Yeah, he's throwing with a purpose there. One and one. Sam Dyson's in the game for Texas with the Orioles batting, trailing 4-3 in the top of the 9th inning now. Derek Holland started. He went 4 1/3 for the Rangers. He's kind of the weak link in their rotation right now. He and Desmond hit his 11th homer. Two balls and a strike. The inning started with an error by Sipp and a single by Nava. Another hit by Robinson to load the bases, giving the Angels 8 hits. Now 3-1. Got him to swing, and it's 3-2.
Get yourself a ground ball and a double play right here.
Wouldn't Tony love that? He's throwing 15 pitches here. Seattle's batting in the 11th, tied 7-7 at Detroit. Got him to strike out, and we didn't have to throw him a strike when it went to 3-1.
That did not hurt a bit. Now get your ground ball. Down and away. Only one pitch in the strike zone, and you get the punch out.
One down, bases loaded for Petit. He is 0 for 3. Rangers beat the Orioles 4-3. Sean Tollison got that win, beating Kevin Gossman. Sam Dyson got his 14th save. Fly ball left field. That one's headed for the seats, and that is a grand slam. It's 10-7. Albert Pujols had a grand slam by the Angels in June of 2015. This is the first one since then. Petit hits a slam, his second home run of the year, and it's a 3-run lead now. A.J. Hinch is coming out. That broke out in a hurry. Now a 3-run lead with 2 outs needed for Houston to nail it down. 10-7 Astros. Pat Neshek coming in. Back in a moment. Second slam the Astros have allowed this year. That brings on Pat Neshek. He is pitcher number 4 of the night.
Put up some good numbers this year in 21 1/3 innings, allowing just 13 hits, 8 runs against him, 4 hits leaving the yard against Pat. It's just lock it down time right now. And by the way, the save is out there to be had.
You're right. Well, let's see. There's 1 out in the inning.
Does that change that?
Yeah, that changes it. If there were no outs, he would have a save situation. But nonetheless, an important 2 outs remain. Yunel Escobar is the batter. He is 1 for 4.
That's right. You got to get the full inning in to pick that up.
Yeah. Save rule is something that many people feel could use a little reworking at this point, but nonetheless, that's the way it is written right now. There is strike 1. Johnny Giavotella is on deck, and he homered in the 8th inning. The Angels have had this late offense with 1 in the 8th and 4 in the 9th here. 1-1 to count. Tony Sipp in 1/3 of an inning gave up 3 hits, 4 runs, 3 of them earned. No walks, 1 strikeout. Danny Worth takes care of the 2nd out. Now Giavotella. .279 for Johnny. 6 homers, 24 runs batted in. He's had a lot of playing time. 215 at bats for Johnny. Former Kansas City Royal. Marte's on deck. Slider for ball 1. Maybe that was a cutter. It had that late cutting action at the end, Ash.
You know, as a catcher, I really didn't care much the difference between cutter and slider. They were kind of the same to me.
Yeah. In for a strike, 1-1.
And the reality is you get one pitcher who throws pitch that breaks 3 inches. He calls it a slider, and another guy will get one that breaks 1.5 feet. He'll call it a cutter, and so it's kind of all meaningless.
Tomatoes, tomatoes.
That's exactly it.
Ground ball. Worth gets in front of it and throws him out. The Astros have claimed 18 of their last 26 games. They are 3-1 on this homestand. And they're now only one game under 500 for the season at 35-36. That's as close as they've been to 500 since they started the year 3-4 on April 11th. Final score, Houston 10, the Angels 7.